Hello, and thanks for joining us for this quick demonstration on how to mark your potential threats as either resolved or in progress when using the Exigent INFORMANT dark web monitoring system. If you receive an email like the one that you see on my screen right now, you'll notice that there are a list of recent compromises that have been detected by the dark web monitoring solution. From here, we're going to click the sign-in link, and that's going to take us to the login page for this particular service. And it's basically going to allow us to plug in our credentials, and it will then prompt you for your Authy two-factor authentication, which is described in the onboarding emails that we sent you. I'm going to plug this info now, and you may see that some of this is blocked out in the video for security purposes. Once you've logged into the screen, or into the dashboard rather, you're going to find that you're actually taken to your private dashboard. And if we look at your private dashboard, you will see the number of compromises that have been reported in the last period of time shown in the date range at the top. Now that email was a summary for the month starting last month on the 1st, so it had some items there. So what we'll do is we'll drill into that, going through compromises, and in this case we've got a slightly larger window to deal with. You'll notice in here that the passwords are listed for each of these particular user accounts, and that there's a red notification over on the right showing that these are new and haven't been addressed in any way. And what we suggest you do here is, the key things to keep in mind are that this password and this account have been made available on the dark web. That means that hackers may have purchased this information, that it's available for purchase, that it's true information, that it's either come from a breach or it's come through a phishing attack or something that's put these credentials kind of out in the wild. So the most important thing that you want to keep in mind is that it's critical to make sure that that combination of credentials is not being used anywhere else. You may see email addresses that are 10 years old, and you may think, well, that's not really important. But if that account, and in particular that password, is something that could have been used in other places, and an example might be if you had a default account or default password rather, that you assign to new users, and you happen to see one of those there, it's entirely possible that you've got some legacy accounts that still have that default password set. And hackers are pretty intelligent. They're going to be running these through kind of robotic artificial intelligence engines to make those attempts against common platforms that they think are associated with you. Could be your banking institutions, financial investment companies, healthcare organizations, your own webmail platform. So you really want to do your due diligence and make sure that you've identified what the potential risks are. And in most cases, the key fix is to go through and change those passwords. Make sure that the accounts don't exist anymore. More importantly, that particular password is not in use in any way, shape, or form. So once we've done that, what we'll do is we'll open up one of these items, and you'll see that there's an option here to mark the status for this particular breach or this particular compromise. So what I would suggest is that you either reach out or email that particular user if you can, and ask them to make sure that those credentials have been changed and that they report back to you when that's done. And when you do that, I would plug in a note here that says, contacted user, awaiting response, and we'll just go ahead and save changes. And what will happen is it'll change the status for this particular item, and we'll go back to the compromises list, to an orange or in progress status. And so this gives you a little visual indication of which items in this dashboard you've dealt with or begun to deal with. When you get the response back from that user, we can reopen it, and we can go ahead and mark it resolved and say verified. This was an old account and account and has long been removed. The original password was changed about 3 years ago. So now you're going to see that the status on this changes again, and it becomes green, showing that we've addressed this particular compromise. So the goal is to go through initially when you get your first reports from us and talk to these particular individuals or go through kind of the history of these accounts and these passwords and make sure that you've legitimately gone through and addressed each one and then mark them off. And this is going to help you in a couple ways. One, it's going to show you that you know, from a compliance standpoint, if an auditor were to come in and say, hey, we know you guys have had data found in breaches because they run similar reports to this. What have you done, if anything, to address those concerns? And you can come in here pretty quickly and show them what you've done. The other thing that this will do is you can go into this particular tool and note what your password criteria are. So this would be taking your password policy and representing it through this particular tool. And let's just say that it has to have 10 letters with at least 2 numbers, 1 special character, and 1 capital. And what will happen is when we save this, it's going to now run a kind of a second check on these passwords and tell you if they met the criteria or not. So you can also get a quick view here to determine whether or not your password policy is actually being enforced for specifically ones that come up now and in the future. If you've set that policy in place, that's kind of a good check to make sure that you're implementing the checks on that policy and ensuring that people are adhering to it. So that's really it in terms of going through and modifying items, making sure that you've identified the resolution or the progress that you've made on each one. This gets significantly easier after the first couple of times you've come in, and we're going to send you several templates, templated emails essentially that you can use to forward to customers or end users that have accounts that have been identified, and some just kind of basic things to remind them of in getting back to you about how those items have been closed out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our support team, and we hope that you find this informative and a valuable product for your arsenal against more and more of these unfortunate security concerns. Thanks for your time.